YouTube, what is going on? Chris with Journals, Comics, and Pop Culture. It is a Sunday night. We're doing a Sunday night live here. Again, second live stream this week. I'm telling you guys, I told you I wasn't gone for good, man. So I'm happy to be here hanging out. It's super hot. I got the air running. So if you guys hear that, I apologize. But it's like 102 degrees outside. So I'm just trying to keep cool, man. GT, what's going on? Thanks for hopping in. So we got a little show today, talking about basically me owning up, not to being wrong about things, but just looking at perspective over the last 4 years and where my state of mind has been in terms of comic book collecting, in the sense of as an investment, the money that we put into it, the money we attempt to get out of it, and where we're at moving forward, and why I feel that we're in a real kind of scary time right now. Scary in a sense that it's uncertain, uncertain times. So I'm going to go more into detail, what's going on, about what I mean. But if you guys care about the value of your comic books, I'm going to be talking to you guys. And I'm going to be asking a lot of questions tonight too. So, because the future may be looking grim. If you guys aren't subscribed to the channel, please take some time to do so. Check out the links in the description below. A few updates of the channel. Again, stepped away from the channel for some months there due to a lot of personal issues. I did come on and did a live stream addressing, I was very vulnerable, talked about a lot of personal stuff. So if you guys are interested in knowing what was going on with me, that live stream is up. Honestly, I forget what I named it, but I think I did it like a month ago. So it's there. Gary, what's going on, Gary? Mojo. What's up, Mojo? Definitely check that out if you guys are interested. So, but I'm back. Like I said, I want to be making a couple videos a week. Hopefully getting back to doing at least one live stream a week and just having fun. I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm taking the channel in a new direction, but I will say that everything that I've been through, I have a new attitude on things. So hopefully that comes off. Las Cruces, what's going on, man? Long time no see. But look, one thing remains, as I've always been, we're here to talk about something that we all love. I challenge different viewpoints. That's the fun of growing and challenging each other and being able to expand our mind and how we view things in life. But it's always love, and it always goes beyond comic books, because it's just something where we can come hang out and have fun in the moments that we have, man. We're all alive and breathing. Be grateful. My gratitude is, so I do want to take a moment for everyone that's here hanging out. Sit there, take a breath in, and think about one thing that you're grateful for. Share it in the comments if you guys are willing to. You don't have to, but definitely share one thing. I'm gonna share my one thing right now. I'm grateful for my health, which allows me to be here with you guys, because I was suffering from some health issues where I couldn't even walk for a good few weeks. So to be able to be up, to be conscious and be here with you guys, it's all due to being able to have this health, and we take those things for granted. So family, that's another big one. Absolutely. Health and family. Yep. So I do, again, updates. So one really fun thing that I'm doing right now, I was editing it today. I was out of town, Pacific Northwest, man. We went to Portland, we went to Seattle, and to the coast. I hit up a handful of comic book shops in 2 different states and documented it. I am doing a big video on this, and in the video we're gonna explore each shop. I bought something from every shop, and I'm gonna show off what I bought, and then I'm going to rate each shop. So I think it's gonna be really fun, because it's gonna have layers to this. It's not just like a tour video or anything. It's a tour video. It's a pickup video. And then rating these shops, man. And I already got some juicy stuff. So look out for that. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks. It's going to take a lot of editing. Grateful for my wife. She got me feeling like I could do great things in my life. I'm not used to that. Mojo, I love that, man. I love it. So that's one thing. I still want to give a big shout out to Comic Book Canon. If you guys aren't subscribed, their link is below as well. I joined last Sunday. for the first time for a whole show in probably a year and a half. Love those guys over there always, Jeff and Joe. So go give them a sub. What else? What else we got? I do want to remind everyone that I got a ton of comic books for sale. If you guys are interested in a little grab bag, I'm doing a 10 for 21. 10 comic books for $21. So basically, you know, with shipping, you're basically getting 10 books for $1 each, or, you know, free shipping at 10 books for $2 each. And you guys can give me, of course, you know, nothing crazy. I'm not going to, you're not going to have a chance to win a big key or anything. It's just something fun, something for me to make a little bit of money and give you guys some cool books. If you guys want to hit me up, hit me on Instagram, send me a DM. If you want to say, hey, I'm looking for some Punisher books, or hey, I'm looking for some like 80s or 90s Marvel, or, you know, Green Lantern stuff. I can, you know, pick stuff out that tends to your needs. So just let me know if you guys are interested in something like that. That is available. So, what else? Any more updates before we get into the topic of discussion? Oh yeah, so I want to do one more thing too. I want to give, I did a little post, but you know, I've been away for a while. The algorithms aren't where they should be right now. Oh well. I want everybody to share in the comments right now a comic book / pop culture, you know, anything relative, a YouTube channel that has under 5,000 subscribers that you guys think that we all should support. You like what they're doing, they're good people. Put their names or at them in the chat right now, and I encourage everyone to go give them a sub. I'm gonna put who I picked in my little post I did. I'm gonna put them down here too. And I do believe this is the proper handle. I'm gonna put my pick, so everyone that's here, if you guys, again, anyone under 5,000 subscriber mark. So I'm putting a K-pop junkie. She's got a good small growing channel. She does a lot of cool live streams, man. She's had a lot of different people on, like from artists to comic book creators and stuff. So check it out. Gary says, my channel could use a boost, guys. Hey, look, Gary, if you're under 5,000 subs and you want to self-promote and put you in the category, it's all love, man. So, yeah. All right. With that being said, let's talk about some things. For all of you that have been following my channel, I started my channel way back in 2016 when my kids were really into YouTube, watching video game stuff like Damn, TDM, and Minecraft YouTubers, because they were really little at the time. They're like, Dad, start a YouTube, like do a video showing off your comic books. I was like, all right, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I just thought my kids would be excited with me doing it. I did it, and it was cool because, you know, you start showing off comic books because we love comics, and you start meeting some other people. You watch other YouTubers that show off comic books, and it was cool. It was cool. It was a community, you know. And then COVID hit, and then I decided to say, well, look, I like hanging out on YouTube and showing off some comics. Why don't I take it to a next level and try to really solidify this channel? And I knew at that time how I wanted to do that, because I have always, ever since I was a kid, cared about investing in comic books. Now, of course, we say this, most of us like comics for many different things. We read comics, or I read comics, I collect the art, and I also collect as a collectible to where I care about the future value of my comic books. And being a businessman and a business student, I had just graduated from college when COVID hit. I was like, I'm going to do something that at the time nobody else was doing. Nobody else was really doing this, breaking down the market. I think Comic Tom may have still had his like the Hot 10 way back then. But what I did was I went in and looked at top, you know, I remember I did my top 100 books for under $100, top 100 key books for under $100. And I did it in a video series. I did 10 videos with Counting Down, and that was big. Top Bronze Age books for under $20 or to invest in. And what I would do is I would look at what the comic books were selling for 5 years ago and what they were right now. And I would put, they're in the green, they're in the red this month, ROIs and return on investments, etc. And that really propelled my channel. And I'm not saying this as a cocky way, because imitation is the greatest form of flattery, but you see not every, but I mean, you put comic investment on, in the YouTube search engine now, you got YouTube channels left and right that's solely what they focus on. And it was a wild time too, because it's when COVID hit and everyone is sitting in front of their screens, people were thirsty for something, man. Like, people were really thirsty for content and something to get them through these days of, whether it's the times of uncertainty or times of just being bored, because people were stuck at home and have money in their pockets, right? So let me turn to an outlet, YouTube, where I can really dive in to a hobby that I love and enjoy. So that's what really started pushing my my YouTube. Of course, during that time too, when I still do a lot of collecting tips too, bagging and boarding. I mean, those are some of my biggest videos. What bags and boards to use, and products, and how, pressing videos, pressing and cleaning, all these things. I mean, but the investment side was something that was real. Like, I loved doing it. I loved crunching numbers. Loved it. I just want to let everyone know that we got a couple of other channels in here too. Cliff on Comics. So again, anybody that's watching, if you guys want to shout out a YouTube channel that's relevant, comic books, pop culture, whatever, that's under 5,000 subscribers, drop their names in the comments and give some love and go follow. Anyways, so back to it. Now, I was moving through COVID. I was very optimistic about the market. And this is where the title of the video comes in, about me being naive. And I'm going to admit it. And like I said, it's not necessarily that I was wrong about anything, but I admit that I was naive. Now, nobody expected the economy to do what it necessarily did. And of course, that's affected the comic book market too. So if you take that out, my naivety of what, the optimism that I was pushing back then had more probably substance and validity to it, because, comic books have been in a situation before where we've had a recession, and comic books were almost recession proof. But you know what we didn't have back then in the last recession, from 2008 to 2012? We didn't really have social media like we have it now. Of course, yeah, Facebook and YouTube was around, but especially for this hobby, it wasn't what it was over the last 5 years. Dr. Plagueis, what's going on, man? Long time. Big perm. I'll take it. So I was very optimistic during this time, where people like, it's a bubble, it's going to crash. And I'm like, guys, look, there's obviously, there's always ebb and flow in the market, right? And obviously we were in a situation that was unique with COVID. And again, nobody could have predicted where COVID was going to lead us. I think that's another thing that people don't understand too. Like, COVID had a time period where I think a lot of people, no matter what you felt on COVID, a lot of people thought this might not end anytime soon. But I think it was kind of funny, because it was almost as if, like, towards the end of 2021, I think that's when COVID cases had peaked. That's when I got hit with COVID, and it hit me really hard for like a month. And everyone that was like the pinnacle of the freak out. The vaccines were being pushed out, and no vaccine, or everyone better get the vaccine. And that's when the businesses were like, no, you can't come to work. That was the pinnacle of the hysteria. But then it seemed like right after the pinnacle, it just completely went away. Everyone all of a sudden was back to work. Most companies not caring about the vaccines anymore. Some still do, which is interesting. But so all I'm trying to say, and I'm not bringing this up for any type of social or political arguments about what your personal take is on COVID and in that pandemic. All I'm saying, it was really interesting because if you were to logically look at the hysteria of that peak towards the end of 2021 with COVID and how crazy everyone was, I was thinking we were going to get locked down again. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, they're going to lock us down for even longer now. This new variant is so, but it like did the opposite. It passed and boom, 2022 came, and it was almost like it never happened. And what did that mean? Everyone's back to work and doing things normally, but we didn't have any of that excess money. Whether you were getting stimulus money or whether you just, you were still working remote and you weren't going on vacation and doing all these things. But now you're back to paying $3, $4, $5 for gas, depending on what state you live in. The commutes, eating out, taking trips with your family, all that. So on top of that, the idea of what was going on with inflation, which is a whole other conversation because most of it isn't inflation. I've talked about that before. Inflation is a factor, but it's not the whole thing. And they just want you to believe it's simply inflation. But what it is the fabrication of supply and demand and the fabrication of scarcity to be able to drive up prices in the name of greed, because we had already been used to that during COVID. And I'll just sidebar quickly. We had a bottleneck in the supply chain during COVID, which drove prices up. Some goods went down, like gas. Gas dropped really cheap because of supply and demand, because nobody was driving. So in order to sell what was sitting, you got to come to that equilibrium. But other things continue to go up because it was driven off of the perception of the state of the economy. And that perception was, obviously, COVID is going to freaking screw us. It's end times. So we go back to work. Everything's back to normal. And now, though, we as consumers have this perception still that inflation exists because of whatever was going on in the supply chain during COVID, or simply because of supply and demand driving inflation with all the excess money that was pumped into the economy, so to say. Well, that's not the case. And what happened was people didn't have the excess money laying around anymore. This is what's affected the economy. Cost of food is 3 times where it was 5 years ago. 3 times. 3 times. Think about that. If a loaf of bread was $2 and change 5 years ago, it's going to be close to like $6 right now, for the most part. I mean, I remember Walmart's loaf of bread was 99 cents. Now it's 2 something. Infamous, what's going on? Brendan, what's going on, Brendan? Good to see you in the chat. So, a lot of these economic factors had nothing intrinsically to do with comic books, but just like everything in an economy, everything is a connected web. If cost of essential goods is going up and cost of living is going up, what do you think is going to take a hit when it comes to where we're putting money from our pocketbooks? We're not going to be, going to the movies as much. We're not going to be going and spend frivolously like on comic books and into the hobby. So what did that do for comic books? Well, it turns a buyer's market a seller's market into a buyer's market, in the sense that sellers are now not as able to liquidate their product as quick as they were before. So what do you do? Well, if a book ain't selling at 50, you bring it down to 45. It ain't selling, you bring it down to 40 until you hit that, equilibrium to where it is in the current market, a fair market value for someone to say, I'm willing to buy that book. And that's why through 2022, you saw a good 30 to 40% dip across the comic market in general. Now, going into 2024, we've seen even larger dips in some areas, even in some Silver Age. So I want to say that I was naive, not simply because of how the economy has affected the comic book market, but because of how much of a I'm trying to find the right word, of how much of a distorted, puppeted market comic books are. Now I'm going to explain what I mean by this. Jason, what's going on? I don't like comics. Why are you here then? But thank you for being here. The thing that I was really naive about wasn't coming out of COVID and us being in the struggling economy that has affected the comic book market. What I was naive about was that this current comic book market, as it's been for the last 4+ years, depends heavily on social media. Heavily on social media. Now you might say, Chris, comic books have been around. The superhero comic book has been around for, almost, 80 plus years at this point. What are you talking about? I mean, we had the 90s boom without social media. That was something different because we had Wizard and other things that helped that. If you were to look at, if you go on, you can go to GPA. GPA is a good one because it actually shows, years back, I believe. I don't know how far they go. By the way, I was a member of GPA for like 2 months and then I canceled it. I'm like, I'm good. That's just me. If you look at the trend in a comic book value, and maybe, guys, maybe one day soon, maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll put together. You guys might want to reach out to Swag. I might reach out to Swag to see if he's done this because I know he's created his portfolios or indexes. If you look at the value of a comic book throughout, depending on what it is, I mean, if it's a Silver or Bronze Age, you want to go back to the 80s and look at what it's done in terms of value on the market up until 2024. You can look at all these books and see an upward trend for the most part. I mean, everything ebbs and flows, but you can see probably roughly maybe at an angle of maybe anywhere from 15 to 30% of an upward trend, or not percent, degree, 15 to 30% degree upward trend. And then when you get into the late 2010s or late 2010s, 2018, 2019, you saw some going up maybe at a little higher angle. And then what happened in 2020? Boom. And then what happened around 2022? You start seeing the dip. And what happened 2023? Dip. 2024 continued to dip. And now we're right back to where we were 2019 level for much of the market. And that's not a bad thing. Keep that in mind. Much of the market sitting at pre-COVID is decent, especially with the state of the economy. Some of it has dipped below, I will say, some keys I've noticed. Now, what is the point that I'm trying to make, and how does this relate to me stating that the comic book hobby as it is right now depends heavily on social media? because the secondary market, and I'm not just talking about online, I'm even talking about comic book stores, is basing their fair market values on a COVID market formula. And what does that mean, a COVID market formula? What did I just say a few minutes ago? The COVID market boomed in most part due to social media. And I know this for a fact. And this is where I said this is a very puppeted market right now. And I'm not saying anybody on YouTube, from big YouTubers to smaller YouTubers to middle-sized YouTubers, I'm not pointing fingers here. But when I didn't even have 10,000 subscribers yet, I'm doing a video saying top 25 Bronze Age books to invest in for under $25, right? And I'm picking books that I just think are good investments. Usually I would pick books that I feel have a good long-term, that would be solid for that long-term return on investment. And in those videos, I showed what they were doing on the market. I gave my personal opinion on them. And I even said in every single one of those videos, do not go out and buy this book because I'm talking about it in a video. I said that in every one of those videos. I always said it. I said, buy what you love, buy what you like. I'm here to give you some of it's my opinion, some of it's, statistical fact, and you do what you want to do as a comic book collector. And I would see, hands down, because in the thing with me, I made sure I talked about books that nobody else was talking about. No other YouTubers were talking about for the most part. And what would I see happen? They'd show up on the top trending lists of cover price, or, I look at the timestamp on the release of my video, and within the next 48 hours, the amount sold on eBay or on my comic shop would triple or quadruple. That's how I know that even my channel at that point in time impacted purchasing decision and value, fair market value on the market. Because, and this is another point where I was naive, because I really thought at one point, I was like, because when people would give certain YouTubers crap, although it's, these YouTubers aren't telling you to go buy a book, collectors need to hold themselves accountable. Nobody's holding a gun to your head, right? But I remember saying, like, you think one person has enough, like, influence to impact a market, because everyone's screaming market manipulation. And again, I'm not saying that anybody's manipulating the market just because they're on YouTube and talking about a book. That's on you. If you just hear somebody talk about it, you want to go buy it, that's on you. You are a grown human being. But I realize, yeah, actually, one person does have an extreme amount of influence on this comic book market. And it has to do with a few things. It has to do with the fact that it's not that the comic book collecting market is extremely small, but it is a niche market comparative to other markets. But it's because what? What did I just say? We are dependent on social media. We watch these top 10s. And again, I'm not shaming anyone or saying that it's bad. I made them. People bought books I talked about. And as we've seen, still, when the market's down over the last couple of weeks with SDCC and Deadpool Wolverine movie and all these cameos, as we see people going freaking crazy, allowing a dollar bin book to be sold now for $200, thinking they're going to get rich. One person buying one book can change public perception of what current fair market value is for that book. And I've said this before, and I'm going to say it right now. All it takes is for, and especially if it's a book like a 9.8 slab when there's not many of them selling, all it takes is for one eBay listing, an auction, where people are sniping it. 2 people. It's counting down 59 seconds, 58. And people get in their FOMO and fear of missing out, and they take a $5 book, and these 2 people drive that book up to a final bid of $27. Well, now you're going to have, and again, this isn't wrong of YouTubers, but some YouTubers look at, last sale or highest sale. Oh man, this book is so, like, previous high sale was $5, current high sale is 27. Then public perception is, oh, well, $27 is a fair market value. Maybe I should pay around that. And then they look online, and then people that are selling the books are like thinking the same thing. Oh, well, somebody sold theirs for 27. I'm gonna list mine for 30. And then that person that's watching YouTube might say, well, I guess that's fair market value. Let me go pay $30. But in reality, again, people say, well, the market dictates what the value is, or it's supply and demand. No, it's not. It actually isn't. Comic books are so easy. The perceived fair market value of a comic book issue can so easily be, oh boy, do I hate to say the word manipulated, but it's not, again, it's not that anybody's manipulating it. It's just perception. It's just a false perception. It takes one cell to think that a $5 book, it has nothing to do with the availability of that comic on the market. It has nothing to do with rarity or scarcity or print run or demand, or it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the fact that people use outliers and peak glimpses of data to base content on, to base hype on, to base intrinsic value on, and to define fair market value on. And I'm sorry to say this too. A large majority of comic book collectors are either, and I don't want to sound, because I get accused of this all the time. I'm like, pompous, and but that's not true. I'm honestly looking out for people trying to be honest. Like, how are we how can we be educated collectors? A lot of comic book collectors are ignorant. I'm not going to say stupid. I'm not going to say uneducated or they're pea brains or they have, like, those are derogatory, stupid terms that are counterproductive for me to use, because no, it's not. But ignorant can seem like a demeaning word, but it's not. Being ignorant means you're lacking knowledge. A lot of comic book collectors are ignorant, and a lot of comic book collectors are also carry addictive personalities. They do. Sarkim, what's going on, man? I just saw you. He admitted. Mike Hags, what's going on, man? Phil, what's up, Phil? Joe 47771. Joe. Okay, movie fan. What's going on, movie fan? I haven't seen you in a minute either. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, movie fan. We're going to talk about this again a little bit. I mean, I've been beating this over everyone's head. Yeah, see, I will show this because I don't like to use the word sheep, because when people hear that, oh, you're a sheep, it's just people are going to put defenses up, right? And they're like, and then they're going to call you names. But there's a point in what Circumstances is trying to say. It's like we group think, we're reactionary, and we want a dopamine fix. But like I said before on my channel, it's not a comic book thing necessarily. It's a cultural thing that goes beyond comics, and how we try to we're in a very gimme, me, need it now, quick fix, right now mentality. And it's also an ego thing. And again, we all have a level of ego that I would hope that everyone tries to work through, because ego usually only gets us in trouble. Confidence, not ego, two different things. But we want to feel like we're in the in crowd. We got it. And we do have a fear of missing out on things. And it is something that's going on in our brain that's culturally embedded to how we get the dopamine fix, to how we get validation. There's a lot of psychology behind it. I know a lot of people won't want to hear that, but it's true. So going back though to what I'm saying, it's like I was naive to the fact that it's easy for a comic book to have one person talk about it or one person purchase a book, and it completely changed the course of the perceived fair market value of that book. So, why does this scare me? I mean, again, I don't even want to say scare me, but like, why? Where's the larger detriment? And and another thing I always said, I would always argue against people. It's the 90s all over again, speculators and flippers, and I would always say it's not. And I'm still gonna say it's not. It's not, but it'll never be the 90s again because there are different variables, like especially for new comics, there's not mass quantities, print runs. We're not mass producing books anymore. But I will say this: the FOMO and how certain collectors react is almost worse than the 90s. It's crazy, and I just talked about that the What If book that was a dollar bin book that's selling for raw for $200 now, when we don't even know if the movie's going to be that. And just like Movie Fan said, even if that is what the movie's about, I will guarantee it right now. And if I'm wrong, I'll skinny dip in a public lake or something. No, that's not good. But if I'm wrong on this, but even if that is what the movie's about, there's no way in 3, 4, 5 years, that book is going to be worth anything close to that. Absolutely not. And that's the craziness of what it's for us. Like people's purchasing decisions are almost worse than the 90s. So the detriment, though, in moving forward, comic book stores, online sellers, YouTube, and I know this because I just went to a dozen comic book shops in 3 different states that I'm doing that video on, and I'm not going to give too much details, but I will say this. It is very rare anymore, it seems, to find comic book stores that want to competitively price. And I said this before, and I'll say it again, and I'll talk about this more in a later video or live stream. Brick and mortar comic book shops are already hurting because brick and mortar shops are hurting to online e-commerce like Amazon and eBay and all that. They're going to shoot the last one standing are going to shoot themselves in the foot, because they would rather simply price at COVID prices, or even these prices of what people are bidding for online, instead of competing with the online market. And it doesn't mean they need to lowball their stuff, but there's a difference between competitive pricing and simply thinking that it's a fair market value because the last sold on eBay was that much. Oh man, I gotta pause, guys. Eric, thank you so much for that super chat donation, man. Wow, I'm extremely humbled and speechless right now. I don't know. I apologize if I don't recognize your name from the past, or if you're new to the channel or whatever, but I really, really appreciate you. I really do. Man. Hey, if you're on Instagram, send me a DM just so I can, give you my gratitude in private. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I want to see what circumstances says here. Man, I found a shop recently that very much prices well, and I'm not telling any of you where it is because I'm not done yet. Hey, yep, I feel it. Austin, what's going on, Austin? That's when you lost. I think he's talking about shops. Thank you, guys. Thank you, man. I'm a little taken back right now, so I apologize. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Eric. Oh man, yeah, that's funny. That's funny. Hey, no lie there though. No lie there. Anyways, yep. That's what's up, man. That's my people. Back to what I was saying. Jeez. We have. I'm not mad at people getting their money, guys. My words are going to be taken and distorted in so many different ways. All I'm saying is right now, for the future state, and I'm still optimistic for the future state of comic books. We as consumers need to evolve first and foremost. We do. We need to evolve. We can't sit here and blame flippers or anybody selling books at these crazy prices because of movie spec or whatever it is. Can't blame anybody but ourselves because people are still paying those prices, and it's crazy. And if they're selling and if it sells and they're making money, more power to them, as long as they're not lying or fooling the customer. You know, as long as they're being honest with what it is they're selling, and y'all are paying that price. Hey, same with shops. I mean, look, I can't get mad at shops for asking XYZ for their books. But the problem that I see with that is it's not going to be profitable for them in the long run. It's not going to be sustainable. So, and I look at it like this. Because there is a dilemma going on right now to where the market is generally down from the COVID boom, right? But yet it's still thriving. Don't get it twisted. Comic books are still thriving. But it's in the areas to where they're thriving. And regardless of what people say, new books are still moving, although, probably not to where the publishers want. Variants are still extremely popular, and I'm never mad at that because I've always said this. People buying variants are keeping single or floppy issues alive. If you just buy cover A to read, thank your variant collectors because they're bringing in the money to the publishers for the publishers to be able to keep publishing floppies. Otherwise, I mean, in 5 years, the floppy, I'm not going to say would be completely gone, but I mean, why do you think DC already put quality over quantity when they tried to do the future state? They said, let's focus on upping the cover price even more, cardstock quality covers and paper, and limited titles. And I remember they were only doing certain titles that were going to be pushed out in trade, and they were only doing certain titles that were being pushed out on the e-readers, the digital readers. And I haven't really followed what they've been doing the last couple of years, but I know they were testing all those things out because of the state that the floppy is in. So thank the variant collectors because they're keeping that afloat. Cool, right? But the secondary market right now is heavily dictated by live action speculation and social media. And it's not just YouTubers. It's not, these influencers on YouTube. It's not just YouTubers with a big following that are talking about books. Go on to Facebook groups. Go on to the CBSI Facebook group, and a random Joe Blow posts, I don't know, a random comic book talking about, is this a good investment? Like, and maybe saying why it is, that I'm just thinking, oh, geez. No, that's a dollar bin early 90s book that has, 2 million copies printed, and it's never going to be worth more than a couple dollars. It doesn't even have a key appearance, first appearance in it, like whatever. But, people are so, and I'm not trying to say it's wrong, but it's misdirected because people will entertain that as something to even put their energy to. And this is what not bothers me, but this is what concerns me with why people collect for investment reasons. People that collect for investment readings, if you're getting mad at somebody telling you you're going to lose money on that, this is FOMO, or that's not going to be valuable in the future. I don't see that as and you get mad at, you're just mad at flippers, or you're just mad at people, trying to collect to invest. No, we're just trying to educate you. You can't have it two ways. If you want to be in it to invest, it's best to be educated, right? Social media is pushing the secondary market right now in so many ways. And I think a lot of collectors are so inundated with all this information and with being a cool kid, so to say. And again, I don't mean that derogatory, but it's like, man, well, if they're doing it, it seems cool, right? I mean, hey, it looks nice, it feels good. I want to get in on that. I mean, you can't be mad at them, but it just helps everyone if we take a step back and educate ourselves and actually have conversations that are productive, where we can challenge each other and not groupthink, because that's another thing. All we do is we want to echo chamber. If so-and-so says this is a hot book and it's going to be worth money, I want to buy it because it's going to make me feel like I'm in on this and I got what's hot. And you don't want to hear anybody challenge that. That's problematic. And the only way that this is sustainable is if YouTube and social media and all these platforms, if we keep using it 5, 10, 20 years from now. And we might. And if that's the case, then the fair market values that we see for these books on the market right now, these crazy prices that we see LCS is pricing their books, hey, everyone can keep doing that as long as the niche crowd that is this social media driven comic book community keeps allowing it to happen. What did I say? It doesn't matter if 200,000 collectors disagree, don't want to pay these prices, and never will, as long as 1,000 of them are at least keeping up the perception. Because when have you or I seen anywhere close to 1,000 copies of some spec book or a hot book on the market at once? Comic books aren't loaves of breads on the shelf in your supermarket. Comic books aren't, boxes of Trick cereal on the shelf in the supermarket. Comic books aren't, Dickie pants on the shelves in your Walmarts or wherever you buy Dickies. There is still and again, but this doesn't mean that they're scarce or rare. It just means what's available at one time on the market is going to be a small enough amount for a handful of people to drive that price up if they simply can't wait on buying that book. And that's how we get dollar bin books shooting up to $200 in the matter of 48 hours. Not because it's an organic fair market value, not because the majority of comic book collectors think it's worth that much, not because it's supply and demand, and not because it's rare. None of those things. So I hope that makes sense. And I want to bring this around to one more thing. One more thing. Let me get some water. I want to let everyone know I had stickers at one point that I would put in all my comic sales. I don't have any more. I wish I did. If anybody has stickers, I'll take some. So hit me up. I'll stick them on one of these boxes. All right, I want to bring this and connect this to one last thing. I am worried about the future value of comics 50 years from now, so to say. Maybe not even that long. And I'm even talking about like Silver and Bronze Age stuff. Golden Age. And this is why. When I talked about how over the last 30 years or so, up until 2019, comic books were on a healthy, 15 to 30 degree angle increase over the years for the most part. And that shows you that there's precedent that comic books in general, and again, I'm talking about key comics. You know, I'm not talking about dollar bin stuff from the 80s or 90s or 2000s plus that depreciates in value. I'm talking about key comic books. And when they did this in 2019, the only thing that's going to keep it up at this is what I just said, the influence of social media. And if just a handful of people still want to FOMO out to keep this misrepresentation of what a fair market value is, that has nothing to do with supply and demand, right? But that 15 to 30% degree increase over the last 30 years or so, you know what that depended on? People born mostly between the Great Generation, all right, but more so the Boomer generation, the Baby Boomer generation. And I think it goes Baby Boomers, what is it, generation, and then Generation Y, and then Millennials, right? Is that how it is? Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Baby Boomers, Generation Y, or is it X? Generation X, maybe. Because I think Boomers were technically Y. No, X, Y. Damn it. It is X, right? X, Y, Z. It's Boomers, Generation X, and then Millennials. Those three generations are the generations that were born into the golden era of superheroes. Not the golden age of comic books, but the golden era of superheroes. If that makes sense. When superheroes were becoming an ingrained part of pop culture, of American culture. Like there is no world without a Superman or a Spider-Man, right? I mean, they are so culturally ingrained in our existence. The Baby Boomers were kids during the late 50s, during the late golden age, and when the Silver Age started taking off. Gen X were kids in the 70s and early 80s. When you had Wolverine and all these characters and you know, Frank Miller doing Daredevil and all these amazing things, leading into, you know, Secret Wars and all that. And then in the 80s, the millennials, you know, during Jim Lee's X-Men and you know, Cable and Deadpool and Deathstroke, all these cool new age characters of that time, Venom, the Todd McFarlane Spider-Man, going into the 90s. Now, I'm not saying the generations after that haven't been brought into comics. Anybody that says people don't collect comic books anymore, that's not true. But it is true that it's becoming less and less. Even people that get into pop culture and superhero culture, the collection of floppy comic books is becoming less and less. And I'm not just talking about primary market, I'm also talking about the secondary market. Boomers are starting to die out. Sorry to say. I mean, life, we're mortals. It's scary. I know. I'm technically a millennial. I'm the beginning of the millennials, I think. It depends on who you ask. Some people might call me Generation X. I mean, I've lived over half my life probably at this point. So in 40 years, our comic books, even Silver and Bronze Age books that keep a premium value, going to be an afterthought. That's something kind of scary to think about. Now, you're always going to have your Action Comics number one, Superman's number ones, AF-15s that are selling for millions of dollars that are going to be like, you know, people that, you know, wear their, mink robes and sip their tea, and they go to auction houses and spend millions of dollars on comic books because they're American heritage at this point, right? Those are American heritage. But is somebody that buys an AF-15 or Action 1 for millions of dollars in the same way that they would buy abstract art piece for $2.3 million, or some vase that they pay $1.8 million for, and it's like, it's a piece of glass. What's so important? Those are the people that are buying those books. Are they going to care about the first appearance of Deathstroke that came out in what, 81 or 82? Are they going to care about the first time, Wolverine's first solo series by Frank Miller? Like, I'm bringing up keys that aren't like huge thousands and thousands of dollars keys, but that are still keys that are still valuable to our generations. That's a scary thought. So there is a real viable argument to say two things, and this is what I'm going to close the show out on today. The secondary market is being propped up right now. It's not market money, and again, I said I was naive and not wrong. I'm not going to say I was wrong about anything, because I've always stood in defense of specific things on my channel, and I still do. If you're going to come in here and be like, market manipulation, and throw all these buzzwords out there, I'm still going to say no, 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 no. I get where you're coming from, but let's stop. These are sensationalized buzzwords, and it distorts our ability to critically think and and actually educate us on what it really is. If we use buzzwords and sensationalize issues without really understanding what the words mean, and words matter, all we do is spew emotion rather than logic. There is a true, valid argument to say that the secondary market right now is being propped up by a non-organic public perception of a falsified fair market value of comic books. And that pertains heavily on probably Copper Age and up. And of course, anything that has to do with live action and so forth. And there is also a valid argument to say in 40 years, when all the boomers and the Gen X or millennials are either dead or in retirement homes, not buying comics anymore, not sitting on YouTube arguing with each other over stickers, over who the cooler collector is, what is it going to do for the majority of our collections? Even key books that aren't considered blue chip American cultural heritage. Something to ponder. So, with that being said, guys, I got commitments tonight, so I do got to get going. I would love to sit here for a lot longer. I do want to read a couple. I'll read a couple of questions before I go. I saw a couple people in here, and then we'll call it a night. Ugly Ewok, what's going on? Ewoks are so cute. How can you dare say that any of them are ugly? What's to say? Generational amnesia will occur. That's a good way of putting it. I like that. That's very interesting. And we can argue this even with, well, we have the MCU, we have all this pop culture stuff that continues the lore of comic books, right? But will that be enough to continue to keep the connection there, right? No, Gen Y started in, and it's always off by a couple years. Gen Y started in 97, I believe. So technically, millennials, depending on who you argue with, is like 82 to 97 or 96 or 81 to 96 or 82 to 97 or something like that. Those are millennials. Gen Y is like 97 to 2010 or something like that. Jimmy, what's going on, Jimmy? Jimmy says, I think within 10 years, it will be all digital and basically just variant style art that's still printed physically. That's my prediction. Jimmy, I'm gonna play kind of a devil's advocate here and just say digital comics have been around for about almost 15 years, and that market has barely grown. I haven't done a report on it in a couple of years, but when I did it a couple of years ago, it was roughly 10 to 11% of the market, the digital market. And it was about 10% when it was introduced back in like 2010. So I don't believe that digital is going to take over the market within 10 years. But I do believe that it is going to grow still. And I do believe that the floppy market is still going to decrease. But variants are going to continue to be a heavily sought after market. So I agree with some of what you're saying. I just don't think that it's gonna take over, you know. And hey, look, 10 years is a long time, and we know that the Internet of Things, so they call it, and technology is advancing so fast. I don't care if they go digital; it makes my books more valuable. Joseph, I'm gonna kind of play devil's advocate. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, because if they go digital, I mean, any back issue book, we're not printing them still, right, Joe? So if you have a key comic from 1982, if digital's 10% of the market today and 99% of the market tomorrow, there's still the same amount of that book from 1982 available. So I don't know if that's necessarily a correlation, but you know, who's to say what that might look like? Let's see what Ewok says here. The market will shrink incredibly due to the generational amnesia. Who cares about Roy? That's a good point. That's a good point for, you know, when Roy Rogers comics were being published. Like, I know I never cared about Roy Rogers comics. The same will occur with superhero comic books or comics in general. And hey, that's a fair argument in concern. This is a good point too, that says there's some hope. Jason, vinyl records, yeah. And but I mean, look, I don't even, I have a CD player in my car still. I have a CD player in my house. And I finally have a Spotify account. And you can actually find my music on Spotify, Oni OZ. Go search it, Spotify, ONYOZ. Go support the music. If I'm buying records, if I'm buying albums, I'm buying vinyl. Straight up. Straight up. I was just listening to my Billie Eilish vinyl a couple days ago. I'd rather hold the physical book in my hands, but that's me, and that's a lot of us. But yeah. Yep. All right, let's see. We can get a couple more comments here. Comics may be the postage stamp of the future. Yeah, I mean, we shall see, guys. What is going on here, Circum? I don't know. Are you talking to me or somebody else? Benjamin, let's see what Benjamin says. Good to see you. Who's your favorite rapper from Hyro? Man, dude, man. You're going to put me on the spot. So, like, I got to rock with all of them, man. I only made music. I only actually recorded. I used to, you know, perform with them, and actually, ran their merchandising department too for some years. I only got to make music with Casual. But Opio once did say that I was an unofficial member. So much love to Opio, but I really got to say, man, like, I love A+, Souls of Mischief. I think Casual is probably the most, like, creative in terms of wordplay. And then, of course, Dell is on a whole other level. But Pep Love too, man. I think Pep Love, his album the Ascension album, probably a top 25 album of mine. I can't say one of them, man. I can't. Sorry. But I would say between A plus, Pep, Dell, and Casual. I love Opio too, man. I got to throw Opio in there. Comic Book Chris, what's going on? Oh, man. All right, guys. Opio is dope. Austin said, that's what's up. Guys, all right, I got to run. I overstayed my welcome. I got obligations to get to, but I really enjoyed hanging out, talking guy. Eric, man, thank you if you're still here. I hope you hit me up on Instagram so I could just, give you my gratitude, man. But appreciate you guys again. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so happy to be in a capacity where I can come back to this channel and talk comics so much. Remember though, I'm in a state of gratitude, man. Every day is a healing journey for all of us, and appreciate the moment. Be kind to yourselves, be good to other people, because that's all that matters in life, man. All this other nonsense is just nonsense, man. Life is too short. Hug the people you love, and be grateful in the small things that we have, man. I'm thankful for all of you being here tonight. I'm thankful for all these comics that I have. And again, if you guys want to hit me up for some 10 for 21 grab bags, hit me up on Instagram. Thank you guys so much. Have a good rest of your Sunday evening. And until next time.